Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Nintendo as a company now and how they're in a unique position to completely disrupt the market. Now I think they already are disrupting the market on many levels. We have the Nintendo Switch, we have their smartphone focus, we even have amiibos. All of those things, and including everything else Nintendo's doing in the background, which we're going to touch upon today, all of those things are really manifesting in this awesome, evolving kind of structural change for Nintendo. Now, the Switch is pretty much the total representation of how much Nintendo has changed. They've unified 3 different form factors into one device. They're going to really kind of push this really awesome ecosystem type of device. That's how I envision the Switch, but it also has dynamic social elements, engagement elements. It's going to be huge. I really think it's going to be huge. But it goes beyond that. This goes totally beyond the Switch. Now we're going to be talking about smartphones, Switch, amiibos, Nintendo's focus, their end game, how they're going to push their IPs, all of that. But it's not going to be a moving video. It's going to be like a slideshow, kind of like a presentation type of thing, because Nintendo likes to flag videos. So, and we're not part of their Nintendo partnership program yet, but we hope to be. So that's just something to kind of, give basically an idea of what to expect. So let's take a look. Now, yesterday or a couple of days ago, Nintendo released their second smartphone game. Now, I kind of consider this their real smartphone game, Fire Emblem Heroes. And that game was pretty huge. First day, it earned 2.9 million. Compared to Super Mario Run earned 8.4 million, and Pokemon Go just smashed everything. But there's key differences between Super Mario Run and Fire Emblem Heroes. Now, Super Mario Run, when it released, investors did not like it. They were not happy about Super Mario Run because it was $10. It was kind of just anti-consumer in a way. It wasn't anti-consumer, but it's anti the smartphone business. And if you want to make a successful smartphone game, at least in Japan, you need to emulate the other smartphone games out there, which means microtransactions. You need loot bag style microtransactions. You need freemium style stuff. You need all of those business strategies incorporated into the actual app. And what Super Mario Run did, it was $10. You get to play it for 3 levels. So it's free to play up to a certain point. So what Nintendo called this was free to start. It's free to start, then $10 after that. The trick of it was always online. It always had to be online. It cost $10, which is pretty steep. So a lot of people downloaded the game, but not a lot of them bought it. And investors were not happy. Like, look, Nintendo, what are you doing? You need to fix this. We gotta have microtransactions. It needs to be 100% accessible. Anybody can pick it up and play it, but you need to incorporate almost like a gambling system into the games. That's how companies make their money. Microtransactions. You don't have to buy them, but if you do buy them, there's a chance you'll get something much better. It's the whole time versus money fiasco. It's a very inherent balance situation, and most freemium games kind of push you towards buying the tokens or whatever currency it is. But this system, the most profitable system, is what's called gacha. Basically what this is, it's like, imagine Halo 5's rec packs. Have you ever played Halo 5 and the horrible microtransactions? Or even, I think Puzzle & Dragons has this. But you basically buy these packs, and you don't know what's in these packs, and you unlock the packs, and there's a chance you'll get something good. That's essentially what gacha is. And that's something that a lot of the smartphone games in Japan do. That's something that Fire Emblem Heroes uses, and that's a huge reason why it earned 2.9 million in its first day. Now it's poised to really rocket Nintendo higher up when it comes to smartphone games. Now this game is really popular. I think it's number 3 on the charts. It's hugely popular. It has rocketed Nintendo shares up, and it actually has rocketed DNA shares up as well. So they soared, what, 4.8% on Friday, which is pretty big. And they actually went up higher than 4.8% to 6%. We'll go over that in a minute. But we'll talk about, this is a huge shift for Nintendo. Because what it tells me is Nintendo is quick to learn from its mistakes now. It's not messing around anymore. Nintendo's not messing around anymore. Look at what they did with the Switch. They do not want the Switch to be the Wii U. So in the same way that the Wii U was such a huge stepping stone for the Switch, Super Mario Run was a stepping stone for Fire Emblem Heroes. Now I do think this game is going to be a consistent money-making earner. It might not be as profitable and as popular as Pokemon Go, but it will be a consistent, it will continue to draw in revenue, draw in funds, and actually it's pretty fun. I gotta say, I like it. I'm not keen on the microtransactions, but you don't actually have to buy them. So this is just the beginning, and Nintendo has already made serious strides to correct many of the mistakes that it's made. That's huge. That tells me Nintendo, they are really in a position where they're serious now. They're serious about, yes, they're going to do things their own way, but that's not going to hinder their business anymore. They're going to do things their own way, and if it doesn't work, they're going to try something else. And what they did here is emulate the most lucrative, most profitable, most popular and successful business strategy that Japanese smartphone games have. Now, this will be bigger. I think it'll be bigger in Japan than it will be in the West, but that's okay. But I do think, now going back to Super Mario Run, let's go forward. Going back to Super Mario Run, now it didn't sell very well. 3.4% conversion rate is pretty bad, frankly. It made about 30 million. It's in its first 2 weeks. That when you think of it like that, it's like, oh well, that's a lot of money. Well, it is, but it's also not a lot of money compared to what it could have made. A lot of people downloaded that game. A lot of people. But 90 million people downloaded that game, but only 3 million of them actually bought it. Now, that's because it's $10, always online thing. But I do think Super Mario Run did its job, regardless if it didn't make as much money. Now, Nintendo President Tatsumi Kimishima was disappointed about the sales of Super Mario Run, so were investors. Now, when Super Mario Run released, the shares slid by 5%, which is pretty substantial for Nintendo. That they don't want to see that. Investors knew, like, okay, this isn't what we wanted, this isn't what we told you to do. But what Super Mario Run did do right is it told everyone, it engaged 90 million people. It engaged everyone on a free level, and what it did is it told everyone Nintendo's making smartphone games. Now, not everyone, watches the news, they read articles, and when they see Mario game out there, an official Mario game, that's pretty big for them. And I do think it was unsuccessful because Mario is their biggest IP. It's their flagship. Super Mario is Nintendo's brand, basically. So when it didn't do too well, it was kind of a hit for Nintendo. But what it did do is completely remind every single person that has a smartphone that Nintendo is going to make smartphone games. It put Nintendo back on the radar. And as far as engagement levels go, 90 million downloads. That's huge. A lot of companies will pay for that kind of engagement. They'll pay good money for that type of engagement. So in that type of level, Super Mario Run set up every person with a smartphone, and with an iPhone, and now it's available on Android. But what it did is just set everyone up for Nintendo's future smartphone games. Now, Nintendo is going to release about 2 to 3 smartphone games a year. And I do think that if they continue on the actual Fire Emblem Heroes model, it'll be huge. Nintendo will keep successfully earning money, and it will bolster their. Now, the Wii U it's not even part of it. It's part of Nintendo's financials, but they're really not banking on it. They stopped making it It's officially out of production. They will not make any more Wii U's. Now they still have expectations, but it's not going to be a pivotal, really strong point of their financials. So to make up for that, to make up for one of their key consoles that's just kind of out of the picture, they're going to focus on smartphone games. So that's going to be a constant, consistent, recurring moneymaker for them. So that's it, another key pillar of their focus. So let's take a look at, now Nintendo just released their third quarter 2017 financials. And the weak yen actually boosted Nintendo's profits. Now they reported 64.7 billion yen, or about $570 million of net profit, and about 174.3 billion revenue. That's pretty good for Nintendo, especially when the 3DS strong sales. So they have the stronger sales of the 3DS and the Pokemon Sun and Moon. Then they have the strongest availability of the Nintendo Mini was very, very bad. The NES Mini was just abysmal, but it sold well. When they sold out, so they sold well technically, but they could have sold a lot more. So Nintendo's making good money from just the market, like the actual money market, the actual conversion rates. So they're making good money from that alone, coupled with the strong earnings from their smartphone focus. So that's something else to consider. So when Fire Emblem Heroes was released, their shares went up 6.33%, and that's pretty big for Nintendo. That's something that I think will continue because people will continue buying things within the actual smartphone game. Now it might drop off a little bit, but it's nothing compared to the hit that they took from Super Mario Run. I don't think that's going to happen unless Nintendo releases another game that's like that. And I don't think they're going to. I think they've learned their lesson. They've kind of told us they learned their lesson. So all of these things, including now this includes the Switch. The Switch has had a profound effect on Nintendo's outlook and how people perceive Nintendo. That is pretty much one of the main focuses. They want everyone to know Nintendo's back. They want everyone to know Nintendo isn't just about Nintendo hardware. We're going to be releasing our key IPs on the most accessible device you already have. You're not going to have to buy anything else, any new hardware to actually play some of our IPs. You play them on your smartphone. That alone will boost Nintendo's profile, but the actual Fire Emblem Heroes game boosted their stock quite a bit. Pretty substantial boost there for Nintendo when it comes to one smartphone game. So if one smartphone game can do this, if the Switch turns out to be a success, which I think it's going to be based on the pre-orders. Now pre-orders are basically sold out everywhere. Nintendo wants to sell about 2 million Nintendo Switch consoles within the first month of availability. That will roll out March 3rd, and what Nintendo will do is they will have that strong, when the fourth quarter ends, which it ends on March 31st. So when that ends, they'll have the initial impact of the Wii U, of the Nintendo Switch. So basically what they want is they want to have that insane launch push, that those 2 million units to bolster their fiscal year 2017. So when that happens, that will add to their actual values. It will add, basically allow them more money to reinvest into future projects, but also keep the shareholders happy. Because actually when the Nintendo Switch was revealed, shareholders weren't too happy. They didn't like the actual Nintendo Switch too much, which was kind of surprising to me. They expected it to be different. So I think one of the main reasons why they're releasing on March 3rd instead of after the fiscal year ends is so they can have that huge 2 million sales within that fiscal year and help, say, okay, look, we met our goal. Say to investors, we met our goal. We now have this operational cash flow to reinvest into future projects, maybe even future devices like VR. All that kind of stuff will follow. And then the Nintendo Switch will continue selling throughout that year, throughout the fiscal year 2018. So that's pretty much the smartphone focus. They're going to continue making smartphone games. They have released this year, they've already released Fire Emblem Heroes, so we should see Animal Crossing. I think they said it'll be past April, it'll be fiscal year 2018. So technically, Fire Emblem Heroes will be part of fiscal year 2017, along with Super Mario Run and Miitomo. So we could even see up to 4 games released this year, if they're including the 2 to 3 games in their fiscal year instead of the calendar year. So that all depends. I think we'll probably see Animal Crossing and maybe another game released this year. Maybe sometime in fall or even summer. So that's one smartphone game, one successful smartphone game, pushed their stock by 6.33%, which is huge. Pretty huge for Nintendo. So if one game can do that, imagine what the Switch can do if it turns out to be a success. Imagine what Amiibos will have an impact. I don't think they'll have a huge impact as far as like the market value, but they will help raise the profile. So let's talk a little bit more about the Nintendo Switch and why it's going to be let's talk. Okay, we got more smartphone stuff. Forgot about the smartphone stuff. So Fire Emblem Heroes, this is actually part of the corporate management policy briefing from Nintendo. They just released it. So this pretty much tells us, they go over the aspects of Fire Emblem Heroes, and they underline why that this will be a success. Users can acquire orbs, which are required to get characters by progressing the game's story, but they can also purchase additional orbs from the shop. That right there is pretty much the basis for the game. Free to start business model. That's understandable. And I really do think that if one game can do this. Now Fire Emblem alone is a pretty key franchise on the 3DS. So we're going to see more crossover franchises. I think we're going to see both instantly familiar franchises like Super Mario. Then we'll see more proven franchises from the 3DS. They're instantly recognizable to core fans. And then once that happens, you'll see like a duality. You'll see things that people always will recognize, like nostalgically, and then you'll see things that are kind of newer, kind of hipper, and it will draw in all of a wider pool of audience. And the games will actually be geared to everyone, but I think they'll have mechanics that kind of appeal to a certain core. So that's something else. It'll be kind of like a layered focus, if that makes any sense. It'll be dynamically layered. Now it's not just about the microtransactions, it's about the total focus, all of these different elements mixed together. So let's go. Okay, so this is what Tatsumi Kimishima said about the smart device business. Now it's pretty much, he wants to maximize the number of people who have access to Nintendo IP. That's pretty much the basis for the smart device business policy. But the synergy with dedicated video game system business, now that is pretty interesting. I want to see where that goes. I really want to see where that goes, and I think eventually we might see some sort of cross-platform interactivity. We're already going to see that with the Nintendo Switch with a voice chat app. I know that's not a popular thing, but that app will be on the smartphone. And I think that's just the beginning. I think we're going to see, like, what if they had a Super Mario Run that interacted with the smartphone and the Switch? And I do think that duality, that ecosystem, is hugely important, and it's a very unique market to tap. And I hope to see like some multiplayer action. Like, it would be really neat to see that you could play like local co-op, like with, let's say you have the Switch and someone has their phone, and you could both play together. That would be amazing. It has to be done a certain way, or else Nintendo will kind of lose out. But I do think that the Switch will incorporate some aspects of its mobile gaming, because it really does. Like, it really does represent a mobile type hardware, because it's basically a tablet. It has a 10-point capacitive touchscreen. You know, it's essentially a tablet, and it could be tapped in a certain way to not only play those Nintendo branded mobile games, but also interact with other people who don't have the Switch, who only have their smartphones. I think that synergy is really something strong, and that synergy can not only continue bolstering the market value of Nintendo with its smartphone push, but also raise the profile of the actual Switch itself. So I think that is it with... Okay, so let's go over the hardware and unit sales. So the Wii U, to date, has only sold 13.56 million units. 3DS is huge. So we take a look at this and we start seeing Nintendo has really turned around as far as what they've learned from the Wii U. Look at the Switch and then look at the Wii U. Look at the third-party platforms. Look at the power of the device. Look at all the features. And then really look at how it builds off the Wii U. It's basically a Wii U Plus, but completely different at the same time. The Wii U was definitely a stepping stone, but they've learned everything they can from the Wii U, and they're moving on. They have to, because that thing was a failure. And look at the way that Nintendo is marketing the Switch. It's so hip, it's so brand new. They're marketing it to make sure everyone understands. They're spending a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising for the Switch. So they're making it very clear that the Switch is not the Wii U. It's something brand new. And the Switch really incorporates everything Nintendo has ever done and ever learned. And essentially it's a fusion of the Wii U and the 3DS and the Wii. Like, it has all these different aspects. But take a look at the 3DS numbers, then we understand that that's not going to go anywhere for a while. Well, probably for the first 1 or 2 years. I think eventually after that they might start pushing people towards the Switch. But the 3DS is, besides smartphones, it's the most accessible handheld. It's the most accessible on-the-go device. Now Nintendo wants to kind of purge in on the Nintendo 3DS territory with the Switch, but the 3DS will still have its place with all kinds of dedicated games, and its full backward compatible library. Its full backward library, and the eShop, the Virtual Console, all that good stuff. So the 3DS is not going to go anywhere. And the report saying that Nintendo is thinking about a 3DS successor, that was a mistranslation. So don't start thinking that they're going to roll out another 3DS alongside of the Switch. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the 3DS will continue, but I don't think they're going to make another one for a while, because the Switch is essentially what that is. But I do think it's also dangerous for them to put all their eggs in one basket, as I've seen people say. So that's another point to remember. They're not going to mess up something that's already huge. Nintendo's learned from that. They've learned a lot from their mistakes and a lot from the market. So the 3DS will continue alongside the Nintendo Switch, and then we will have smartphone games. Infinitely accessible, instantly recognizable smartphone games that anyone can play, anyone can buy, because they already have a smartphone, basically. So that's pretty much the smartphone 3DS kind of thing. So should be going into the Switch. Okay, so let's talk about why the Switch is going to be huge, and why it's going to be successful, and why it is a turning point for Nintendo. Now, for the first time ever, Nintendo is unifying a cross-functional device. Like, they're taking all of these great things and melding it into one. The Switch will basically be a handheld, a console, and its own on-the-go mini console. It has 3 different form factors. The handheld one, I think, is the most will be the most popular one. But the most interesting thing about the Switch is, so there's the handheld, and we'll go to, that's the arcade. That's called Tabletop Mode. So the Tabletop Mode, I think, is going to be the most successful, because what this does is it allows you to play with a friend. You hand your friend one of the Joy-Cons, and you both play on the screen. It's like a little mini arcade. I think that is going to be the selling point of the Switch, because anyone who has a Switch will basically be able to advertise the Switch. It'll be an engagement device, a social engagement device, because it can instantly transform into a tabletop arcade, provided people have the games, to play multiplayer and all that. But like 1-2-Switch, I think that's going to be huge, and I really do think that's going to convince a lot of people to buy this console. Anywhere you go with this thing, you could transform it to arcade mode, tabletop mode, say, hey, try this out. That is the magic of it, and I think that Nintendo has gone through great lengths to sell that as a as far as the market, like business proposal, because anybody who plays it will be interested. It's not like VR. VR is kind of stationary, one place. With this, you take a new experience on the go. You can play it with anyone, anywhere. That's basically the core tenet of it, and that's the beauty of it, as far as the capacity to sell consoles and the capacity to actually convince people to buy them and put out the engagement. People might not even know the Switch exists, and when they see it, they're like, oh man, this is awesome. Start looking it up, and like, oh man, that thing was fun. I'm gonna go ahead and buy that. And then it has a console mode for people that traditionally like console-based play. You slot it into the dock, and then it becomes a fully fledged console. Now, personally, I think that mode is going to be my personal, it's gonna how I'm gonna mainly play it. But I do love how it could instantly transform at any time. Slot it right out of the dock, slap the controllers on it, take it on the go, and now you have a handheld. A handheld that can deliver 720p gaming. Far better than the 3DS can ever. This thing is leagues above the 3DS. I don't think it's necessarily a replacement, but I think eventually it will replace the 3DS. Not right away, of course. So you have all these different modes, all these different form factors that really exemplify how Nintendo has innovated on a hardware, software, and also a business strategy level. Nintendo, I don't even think this is really risky personally, because I think that it covers all the bases. They have all the bases covered. They have handheld, they have mobile, they have arcade machine, instant accessibility, engagement building, hype building, and then they have the console play for everyday people, normal people. But the actual business strategy behind it, the core tenets, the switching between modes, unique features, transforming device, one of a kind. There's nothing else on the market that's like this, that is all in one. They have PCs and everything that can transform to touchscreens, but as far as Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. Microsoft and Sony, I don't think they might transcend, they might push into handheld, but I don't think Sony will, because the Vita died. I don't think Microsoft cares that much. So Nintendo has really tapped its own market, and is a pioneer in this market. That is what makes the Nintendo Switch such a unique device. That's why I think it's going to sell, because it's something new, unique, and fresh. It's hip, I do think, and the ability to trade with anyone, you could hand it to someone in handheld mode, say try it out, the arcade mode and the console mode, and the local area network play, the LAN play. You can hook up to 8 Nintendo Switch consoles in one area, Wi-Fi, wirelessly. Or you could play, I think in some games, you play like 6 players on the same screen on the actual console when it's docked. Really unique situations, all of this potential, all of these different games that have different potential that can leverage all the form factors. Then we have the actual Joy-Con controllers and the HD Rumble technology, which will facilitate all of these unique experiences. Now this is a 1-2 switch, and Nintendo has shown this. Great for families, great for parties, great for gatherings, and any place where you actually you want to have fun with multiple people. So this thing is going to appeal to everyone. That it's got the broadest appeal of any device I've seen in a long time. It's going to appeal to children, to women, to men, to kids, even older people. You can play it at parties, you can play it anywhere. And I do think that's going to be the magical aspect of it, and I do think that will be the foundation. But there's nothing. The smartphone gaming is a reminder of how Nintendo has changed, but I think the Switch is the clearest bell, the clearest gong, the clearest signal that Nintendo has matured, that they're serious now, but they're also going to do things their own way. And they took a risk necessarily. I think they did take a risk by going into an untapped market, but the way the hardware works, I think it's less risky than anything else that a lot of companies have done. Like Sony with the PlayStation VR, that was a risk, and it sold well for them, but I'm not sure exactly how it's sold insofar as how much they've invested in it. But this Switch, pre-orders are sold out everywhere. They're going to hit their 2 million in the first month easy. And I do think that it will continue pushing into new realms. It's going to be something really huge. So this was basically a wrap up of how Nintendo is completely changing their market structure, completely changes their business structure, and what to expect from them.